Hello, can you hear me? Is there anyone out there? Just testing my mic, but it looks like it is working, so I assume it is. I will go live for real in just a moment. Alright, that's long enough. Let's get this show moving. Bam. Cool. Alright, hello. My name is Ben, or Ben77Chess for long. Welcome to my stream. Um, yeah, this is first time streaming by myself, so kind of excited for that. Recently, I was streaming with my good friend Wisteria on her channel, and I had a really good time. And so I was like, I should try this on my own. So here I am, and we're off to a great start, so that's good. Um, anyway, I'm Ben, as you know, um, and I guess I should give a brief intro of myself, because I don't think I've ever done that. Um, but I am a game developer, uh, video games, and also tabletop games. And so when I was thinking about things to stream, uh, I was thinking that that would be the coolest thing that I could stream, perhaps the most interesting. So I'm going to go ahead with that and see how it goes. And also, critically, it gives me an excuse to work on this game, which I have not done in far too long. So, yeah, it's going to be good. Um, I'm going to switch to that. It's just a Google Doc, so it's very thrilling. You can already see it in the background, in fact. Um, and I'm going to give a quick rundown of what's going on with it. And I'll try not to take an absurdly long time. It's kind of a long document, but some context will probably be useful. Oh yeah, and I should talk about what I'm doing. I have a to-do doc over here of stuff to do, which is very disorganized, and I like it that way. It's kind of fun for it to be like stream of consciousness. Anyway, I've been working on this game for quite some time. A couple years with one of my friends, Tristan. Um, Currently, what I will get to eventually is that I am going through the cleric spells and balancing them, etc., etc., etc. So we'll get there. But first, let me talk about the system a little bit. Um, so this is an OSR system. If you're not familiar with tabletop role-playing games genres outside of, you know, the very popular 5e or whatever else, OSR stands for Old School Renaissance or Old School Revival. It's a genre of tabletop game, and basically it's just modeled after older versions of D&D, like first edition or second edition. And what that means is that it's focused on dungeon crawling, It's got like high player fatality. Um, Typically, they're not very narrative. Uh, they sort of are supposed to play kind of like traditional roguelikes. So, anyway, that's sort of the genre. And probably people who are better informed could give a better explanation than me. I just kind of make things, and occasionally I read things. Um, yeah, anyway, so this is my game that I've made with my friend Tristan, as I said. You can see here that it is a rules-heavy OSR. And that's kind of a joke, because it is really long. Currently, the rules document is 167 pages. So that kind of sucks in some ways, and is also great in other ways. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on in it. I'm just gonna read the design pillars because that's probably the easiest way to summarize what the system is about. Um, oh, and I should mention, yeah, in this document overview, we'll just, yeah, I'll just summarize this. Basically, this game, I started this RPG. Um, it was based on Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which is another game in the OSR genre, which I was a big fan of at the time. And specifically, it was based on a fan rule set, or fan version, of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, made by a very cool guy whose name is 10-Foot Polemic. He has a blog, which is neat, and influenced a lot the original version of this document. Um, anyway, so it's sort of based on that. Um, but there are things that I wanted to change about it, and things that Tristan and I thought we might be able to do better for our own group. And so, yeah. What I wanted to do with it, these design pillars, are that I wanted to front load the content, so that, because most play in OSR games, in our experience, and especially in our experience with players who died a lot, was that play basically always takes place at level 1, or maybe level 2. And I've read all of these OSR systems that have really cool stuff at higher levels, high level spells. They've got like domain management. All of these things are imaginary. They don't really exist because in reality, players don't actually get that far. So one thing I wanted to do was to try and front load the content more, so there was more to do at level 1. And what that means in reality is, for the system, is that for our spells, we took out spell levels, made them all level-less, so you could access basically any of the spells at level 1, and they all scale with your player level, so that's pretty cool. The second design pillar is that rolling on tables and options are fun. I really like rolling dice. I really like randomization. I really like random tables. Yes, free spells for you. Ooh, derailed. I was just babbling. Yeah, there's a ton of spells in the game. It's the part of the game that I'm actually the most proud of. And don't worry, we'll talk about it more later. But just as an example, the magic user spell list. At level 1, as a magic user, you get like 4 spells or whatever. And there's like 160 spells or whatever that you can get, and you roll randomly, and you get like 4 of those at random. It's really cool. There's a lot of variety. Also, hello Wisteria. Thanks for watching. You can see I've got a cool overlay that I hope, is showing up well. And you can see, there you are, right on the side, my current fave. That's pretty cool, huh? Anyway. Holy crap. I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, me too, actually. It's kind of crazy. Or, I don't know, a TV that you at least are watching. And me, I guess. Anyway, I like random tables. That's the TLDR, the second design pillar. But also, it turns out that while I like random Thank you, Wisteria. Uh, while I like random tables, it turns out that it's not actually great for an RPG to have an absurd amount of random tables and just be rolling on them all the time, as I discovered. Because people don't like that because it's kind of slow and also overwhelming. So keep that in mind. Okay, and the third and final design pillar is that the leveling's a little bit faster than some other OSR games because, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get players past level 1, and you really want them to get past level 1 so you can do cool stuff with them. Um, it's not that much faster, but it's a little faster. Um, and it also has quirky and weird options because, you know, Lamentations of the Flame Princess is kind of known for uh, being quirky slash weird if you're generous, and edgy if you're being not generous. Um, anyway, I like the quirky and weird parts of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, so that's uh that's what I copied here. Well, I try not to copy directly. In fact, I'm trying to like take out all of the parts that I've directly copied, um, just because that seems like the right thing to do. And also, the system has changed so much over the past like 5-ish years that it is like not even recognizable as what it was originally. So the goal is eventually to take this out uh, altogether. Okay. Anyway, now I'm gonna actually go do things and we can stop talking to myself. I'm just kidding, that's not gonna end. Where is this? Okay, so anyway, yeah, what I'm doing right now is I'm sort of doing a big pass through all of the spells. So, like I was saying, the spells are levelless, which makes them kind of hard to write, because I want them to be balanced, roughly, as like a game designer. My expectation and hope for this system is that the spells are all roughly balanced, um, in some way. And so I have gone through, over the past while, all of the magic user spells, all of the necromancer spells, and I've made it through most of the cleric spells, and we find ourselves tuning in at the end of the cleric spell list. So I should say how this spell list works, because that's kind of important context. So clerics are actually a really cool class in BAT. I think all of the classes are pretty cool, but I might be biased. Um, yeah. So I'll just read what's going on here. But here's sort of the class fantasy they're fulfilling. They're supposed to be like supports that can be specialized in specific things. They give buffs and debuffs, and they generally are not the damage class. So it's basically what you would expect of a cleric, which is kind of the point. Like, they're healers, they're supports. Yeah. So, and the goal of their spell list is, it's got heal harm stuff. Um, it's cleansing, purifying, that sort of thing. And there's also a lot of structure via the subclasses, which I'll talk about in a sec. Oh, that just jumped around. So here are some stats which aren't that important for understanding clerics. Okay. So, clerics can't have sharp weapons. This is a classic cleric thing. I played it in BX, and I actually really liked how they limited weapons based on classes. So, I took that and put it in my system. So though, only smashy weapons for clerics. Right, okay. So at level 1, clerics can cast 1 spell per day safely. And when you start as a cleric, you choose... Oh, alright. How do I ban people? Hmm. Hold on. I'll figure this out. Sorry. Sorry. Ban! I found it. It's so easy for me. Okay. I'm on track as normal. Um, so when you're level 1, as a cleric, you choose like one of these 4 specializations. Um, now I need to make that pop go away. Ah! Don't do that. Whatever that was. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna ignore that. Back on track. Um, okay. When you're at level 1, you choose one of 4 specializations. And what that... Yeah, I'm just rereading this. Okay, yeah. You'd think I'd know these rules better because I wrote them, but like, it's really all up in the air. Okay, so when you're a cleric at level 1, you get these 5 spells in the base spells list for free. You know them. They're pretty normal cleric spells. Bless, cause wounds. There's this spell that lets people reattempt saving throws, turn undead, and one that stops people from attacking, Sanctuary. Um, so you get those for free, and you choose a specialization. Those specializations are Divine, Healing, you can see them on the side, Purification, and Retribution. And they're supposed to like inform your type of cleric. So you get all your base spells for free, all 5 of them, and then you pick 2 spells from your specialization. So for example, Divine Clerics, you can pick Augury, which is... Oh god, did I fuck something up with the headers? Oh, I fucked something up. Okay, that's good, we fixed it. Everything is normal and on track. Yeah, so you could pick like Augury, which is it's the you ask a question and your god tells you whether it's a weal or woe. And say like Tongues, which lets you speak a different language. Does not let you speak a different language. It lets you understand someone speaking in a different language. So yeah, so there are basically these different subclasses of cleric, and as you level up, you get to learn more spells from your specialization list, which have like their own identities. The purification list is all about like fire and purifying sin. The healing one's all about healing, etc. Or you can pick from the shared list, which is basically all of the MISC cleric spells that are just kind of more generic or didn't fit into one of the specializations. So, yeah, clerics are pretty cool in that way. You might have noticed that there's no cure wounds on the base spell list, and that is because recently we changed cleric healing. I'm gonna go back to cleric. So that where is it here? Oh yeah, so that they don't need to use a spell slot to heal. They've got like Paladin 5e lay on hands healing points. And healing clerics can get more healing, obviously. But yeah, and we did that because I thought that, as someone who was playing a cleric in the campaign we're playing of this, it felt like I was spending all of my spell casts on healing, which sucked because I wanted to do cool cleric things like cast Augury or whatever else clerics cast. And I wasn't being able to do that because I felt like it was just the best thing for me to do to cast healing all the time. So yeah, we changed that, and it seems to have gone pretty well so far. Also, okay, last really cool thing about clerics. Clerics are really cool. It's a good thing I'm not summarizing the whole document. Okay, so the miscasts in this system are really cool. and I'm also really proud of them. Um, you might have noticed that earlier it says that clerics begin at caster level 1 and are able to safely cast one spell per day. Safely. Safely. Um, you can cast more than one spell per day at a cleric, as a level 1 cleric. In fact, you have like a safe spell limit at every level, and you can always cast over as a cleric and as a magic user in other magic classes, but they work a little differently. Um, anyway, once you cast over your limit, you start to risk incurring consequences. Miscasts. And clerics have a fun little miscast thing, which is called Wrath of God. Um, so the way that that works is, as it says in this section here, when you cast beyond your limit, you roll 1d6 plus any penalty, which you can ignore that part, basically, for now. And if you roll... Oh, explaining this is really making me test my memory of it. Okay. If you roll a 7 or an 8 total, you incur the Wrath of God. And you get +1s for, like, the more spells over your limit that you're casting, as well as if you've, like, overcasted on previous days or whatever. So, basically, like, the first time that you overcast, you have, like, a 5 in 6 chance of safely casting the overcasted spell, and only, like, a 1 in 6 chance of incurring Wrath of God. And it gets worse. So there's this Wrath of God table, which I'll show you in a sec. And if the result is 9 or higher on the 1d6, your cleric is instantly incinerated, which is great. So there's some risk to overcasting, and in fact, at a certain point, there is extreme risk. So you have the option, and you can do it to get out of, like, wacky situations. But yeah, there are penalties. And actually, the Wrath of God table is not that bad. The instant incineration is the worst of it by far. But you can see that it's just like it's still annoying stuff, but it's not like will kill you. Becomes mute, destroys inventory items. Bolt of lightning does a little bit of damage. Some slightly worse ones. Running in terror, visions of hell, that sort of thing. It's very cool. Okay. Anyway. There is some slightly more stuff about clerics. But those are all the important things. So, with that in mind, rules heavy OSR. There's a lot of rules. For better or for worse. With that in mind, we go to the cleric spell list and continue our work. Whew. Okay. So, oh god, I need to explain briefly how the spell list is set up. Okay, this is easy. So spells, you can see there's labeled at the top. Name of the spell. You can ignore category. You can ignore specialization. These are all shared, obviously. This terribly unintuitive category is for if the spell is channeled or requires concentration. Then the duration and range, I think, are self-explanatory of the spell. And then the effect is what we're going to be primarily editing. Yeah. So this spell list format is not great. It was originally a Google Sheet because it was easy to organize things in a Google Sheet. But it has not been a Google Sheet for a very long time. So it should really change. And in fact, the next thing on my to-do list is to change the spell table, to make it not look like that. And instead, to make it look like this. Which is better. And at least is not a copy-paste of a Google Sheet. So that's something. But I wanted to, like, do the pass through all the spells first. Yeah, because otherwise it would be kind of a pain. It's gonna be a pain no matter what, but that's fine. Okay. Um. Anyway, so we're looking at Charm Animal. And the way that we're like going through these spells is primarily we are thinking about how they we're thinking about balance with them in regards to how they scale from their lowest power level to their highest power level. So more things to explain. There's more than I thought. So I said spells scale before. They do. That's true. Um, they scale with caster level, which is abbreviated in these spells as N. Um, and that ranges from 1 at level 1 to like 11 at level 20, which is the highest level in the system. It doesn't scale 1-to-1 with level. It used to, but it doesn't anymore because that was too much scaling. It went too high. So now it goes up roughly every other level. Um, there's a little bit of variation in the classes, but yeah, it's basically 1 to 11. Um, so we're gonna think about it at level 1. We're gonna think about it at level caster level 1, at caster level 11, and then maybe like caster level 5. Keeping in mind that most play will occur at caster level 1 or 2, but it should still be functional at higher levels. Anyway, Charm Animal. The spell works on your deity's animal, if they have one. Up to N hit die of these animals are lured into a non-hostile trance. If these creatures were actively attacking when the spell was cast, this spell lasts for 1d4+1 rounds, and otherwise 1d4+1 turns. So a round is a combat round of like 6 seconds, and a turn is 10 minutes. And HD is hit die, which is basically creature level. Yeah. Okay. So the spells in the shared list are kind of like they're not the best spells power level wise, so we don't have to make them like super strong. They're just supposed to be like sort of specialty spells that you pick if you feel like you need them. Um, like you don't have to take them, right? They're optional like shared spells that are weaker because that they're in the more generic list. Um, so this working for your deity's animal only is kind of a cool lore thing that I like, but it also makes the spell significantly weaker than it would be otherwise because, you know, even if your god's animal is like snakes, like it only works on snakes and no other kind of animal. And, you know, God forbid you have like a normal god whose animal is like, I don't know, deer or like a non-threatening animal, then like there's not really a use for the spell. Um, but that's fine. Again, uh, you're only supposed to take it if it makes sense for you to take it. So that's all fine. Um, up to N hit die of these animals are lured into a non-hostile trance. So what's scaling here? So it's touch range. The duration doesn't scale with your level. What's scaling here is how many animals you can control. Are lured into a non-hostile trance. I want to add and follow simple commands. That gives the spell a little more use, other than just making them do nothing. You can be like follow or like whatever, which is nice. Um, and then I should add a note about like, you know, any hostile commands will break the spell or whatever. I probably have wording for that elsewhere, like in Charm Person or whatever, but I'll just put Ooh. Any commands that would cause the creature harm or to cause harm. Or break the tenets of your religion. Oh, how about that? Will break this spell. The kind of cool thing about clerics also is that, like, the power comes from the deity, right? Like, unlike the, like arcane magic, where it's coming from, like, the mystical energies of the void. Um, like, your powers as a cleric is being explicitly granted, like, by your deity. And, like, it is only at their mercy that you are able to cast a certain number of spells, or spells at all. And that's why Wrath of God is pretty cool, is because it's like, you're, like, poking your god, asking them, like, hey, can I cast more spell? Um, and there's, like, there's a chance that you're gonna piss them off if you ask too much. And the better a cleric you are, the more cool you are with your god, the more spells you can cast a day before asking to cast more spells pisses off your god. So I think that all makes a lot of sense. Uh, anyway, like in spells normally, like following the tenets of your religion is a good lore thing. Anyway, if these creatures were actively attacking when the spell was cast, this spell lasts for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. Yeah, and the point of this bit here is to make it so that it's, like, less powerful in combat. Um, I actually don't know if there's really a good reason to have that. Like, it makes the spell less powerful in combat, but the spell is so niche that if you bothered to learn it, then it should be powerful, is what I should say. But, like, you also don't want players to, like, use it to, like, cheese a dungeon with, like, a specific creature type focus. Like, if you're going into the snake dungeon and you're like, oh, my deity's god is the snake, like, I'm just gonna take charm animal and then never do any combats. That's kind of fine, actually, but, like, I don't know. Then again, the duration is short enough that, like, it's kind of hard to spam. And also, like, you need to cast it multiple times on multiple groups of enemies, since you can only affect up to N hit die of creatures, and they need to be in touch range. So, like, as, like, an N equals 11 cleric, um, like a highest level cleric, up to 11 hit die of creatures in touch range are made non-hostile for still 1d4 plus 1 turns. So that's only like 30 minutes on average. And if you cast that spell, like, for your, like, 11 safe spells, that's only like 6 hours, and it costs all of your spells. So, yeah, I'm actually going to take that out. And if someone just spams it, good for them. They were able to use their cool niche spell. So I'm going to take that out entirely, and I'm just going to put 1d4 plus 1 turns over here. And bam. Oh yeah, we're also doing this read through to make the text less awful, because some of it is not worded very well at all, which is fine. That's how drafts go. But yeah, that's also the purpose of the read through of the spells. Also because, like, mechanics have changed a lot over the past couple of years, and some of the spells use, like, outdated words or mechanics. Not a ton, but you find them occasionally. Okay. Anyway, moving on to command. How long have I been streaming? 30 minutes? Okay, cool. Um, I don't know how long this stream is going to be because I'm just kind of testing it out. I'll do it until my brain melts from going over spells. And so far I've gone over exactly one spell, so hopefully I can get through more. Yeah, anyway. Command. Duration. 1 round. Okay. Range 5 plus 5 feet. When a cleric casts a spell, they can give the subject a single word command which it obeys to the best of its ability. The single word must make sense as a single command, such as approach, drop, fall, flee, halt, surrender, sleep, etc. I don't know if all these examples are necessary. Although a target could be instructed to die, this will only make the target collapse into a comatose state for a single round. Note that the caster must be able to speak the language of the target. Any intended target that has more than n levels or hit die, or an intelligence of over 12 plus n minus 1 max of 16, that's kind of gross, is entitled to a saving throw versus law, which would be on their stat line. This spell is ineffective against undead. Okay, this spell makes me have a couple of questions. This line I think we can take out and we can specify in less words elsewhere. Which it obeys to the best of its ability. If it is capable of comprehending it. That kind of raises questions about like what happens if you cast the spell on animals. Though I guess most animals would be able to, well, I don't know. Like you can give commands to dogs, but I guess you have to train them to do that. So I don't know about that. Anyway, not important right now. This next sentence is kind of lengthy. I don't really like listing all of them out. It's a lot of just words. I think I could do examples are fine, but I would like to condense it down to like a couple. Example. Approach. Halt. I feel like I need a third one. Fall. Fall is fine. That's like fall prone. This just needs to be reworded. I think it's good to clarify die because that's like a reasonable thing for a player to think. To think of when they're commanding, and it's probably good to address that. It is kind of hyper-specific, but comatose state for a single round. We don't have to capitalize round every time. That's kind of a relic. Any intended target that has more than n levels or hit die, or an intelligence of over, what is 12 plus n minus 1 max of 16 equal? I guess that n equals 1, it's 12. Okay. and it goes up until n equals 4, and then it stops. Okay, I get what we're going here with the scaling, but it kind of makes reading the spell gross. Um, Honestly, just the range scaling is pretty good for this spell. Uh, because like it's pretty powerful to just like, you know, tell them to drop their weapons or whatever at range. Um, or like come closer or whatever. Um, I don't know, maybe. Mm, I would say maybe just take out the intelligence thing entirely, because like what's more important is the N hit die and level scaling. But giving a use for intelligence is kind of a good thing, um, because it's not really used a ton. It is used in some places. And in fact, we've put a lot of work in to try and make it so that all of the stats are like equally valuable. I want to go back to find what this probably isn't that important, but I'm going to check it out anyway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Int is used for saves against magic, some of our skills, and saves against miscasts. So, still probably the least valuable for most classes. But, I don't know. This kind of niche use isn't really going to save it. And I don't know if I have anything like that on, like, Charm Person or whatever. And if I don't, then I don't think I should have it here, because consistency. So let's check. Let me just check out Charm Person, which I've already, like, written and edited. I'm just skimming. Ooh, okay. I think Charm Person needs to be rewritten. Probably. That's fine. There's nothing about intelligence in these spells, though. So we'll ignore it. Okay. We'll take that out. Shorten that to HD. Just change the wording here. To resist the effect. The spell is ineffective against the undead. Sure, that's fine. Clerics already have undead spells for free. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Oh, we've got all the curses next. Oh, I guess there are only 3 curses. Ill fortune. Oh, careful. Ill fortune, malaise, and sickness. I kind of thought there were more. Huh. But I guess there aren't. That's fine. Okay. Curse of ill fortune. Range 5 plus 5n. Duration variable. Modify the natural result of the next 3 dice rolls made by the target. This is a cool spell, I think. Subtract 2 from the natural result of the first 2 rolls. Why do you need to say natural? Or if lower is better on the roll, add 2. Okay, yeah, sure. On the final roll, subtract or add n minus 1, whichever will have the most deleterious effect. I do enjoy using the word deleterious. Damage rolls cannot be reduced below 1. Any roll adjusted to within its critical failure range will critically fail, and rolls initially within the critical success range adjusted out of that range will no longer be critical successes. The target may make a save versus law to resist the effect. On a success, the target only suffers the effect for one roll, but the effect is the one suffered on the final dice roll. Okay, I get what I'm trying to say here, or whoever wrote this, me or Tristan, but it could probably be cleaned up a little bit. Also, let's think about the scaling. So, it's kind of wacky, but I kind of like it on this one. This is kind of a fun spell. Um, it's wacky because, like on the last one, it's modified by n+1, which should actually probably be higher because at n+1 it's 2, at n=1 it's 2, and it probably should always be more than 2, even at level 1. Otherwise, like, what's the point? So I'm just going to change that to n+2 for now. But then at n=11, it does become like 13, which is like a really big dice modification. You're giving like minus, even if they pass their save, say you're fighting like a high level enemy, you're spending your turn to give them like minus 13 to their next roll. Which is kind of cool. I don't hate that. I mean, it's kind of fun. And like at higher levels, like the +2, -2, whatever, won't affect them as much. I mean, even at low levels, it doesn't affect you that much. Important context that monsters add their hit die to attack rolls, so we expect powerful monsters to have big bonuses to attacks, because they're stronger. But that sort of mitigates the effect of like a reduction to the roll. Anyway, so the effect is cool. Like, it's kind of a good spell. The range is kind of short, so that kind of holds it back a little bit, but it's not touch. And obviously at high levels it becomes like pretty good, like 60 feet or whatever. So I don't know. I think you could argue the range could be shorter because it is pretty good otherwise. And you roll it, especially the critical failure and the critical success thing is funny and good. I like that. And they do get a save, which is good. And it's not save or suck. There is something that happens with the save if they make the save, and that is that they are still affected by it. But just the cool fun part, which is cool. Yeah. So overall, I think this spell is really good. I didn't actually change the wording. I see that. But that's fine. I think I am maybe just gonna change the range to touch. I think it's still really good, but it makes it a little less free at high levels, which is good, I think. Okay, Curse of Malaise. Malaise? I don't know. 5 end rounds duration. Okay, that's like a red flag right away because that scales really high. Because it scales from 5 rounds, which is 30 seconds, to 55 rounds, which is longer than that. It's a while, a couple minutes, which is not that long, but in combat is absurdly long. Because most combats aren't going to go more than like, 5 to 10 rounds at most. Anyway, the target of this curse receives a -2 to all saving throws. Okay. And additionally a -1 to hit for its duration. Okay, that's not a bad effect. Cannot target devotees of the caster's faith. Okay, that's not terrible on curses, but it makes me wonder why it's not on Curse of Ill Fortune. The target may make a save versus law to resist the effect. Okay, this spell is less cool than Curse of Ill Fortune for sure. Oh, I'm looking ahead. I see that the cannot target devotees of the caster's faith is also on Curse of Sickness. Okay. So I'm cool adding that into Curse of Ill Fortune. That's kind of like a cool bit there. And isn't really relevant most of the time, so it's fine. Doesn't really hurt the spell. Okay. The target of the curse receives a -2 to all saving throws. So saving throws are kind of not usually that relevant, unless you're like setting up for something that is going to make them roll a saving throw, which is fine. And even then, -2 isn't like crazy. And additionally, a -1 to hit for its duration. That's honestly probably a bigger deal. Trying to think if should it do anything if they make the save. I guess it doesn't have to. Like, it's kind of hard to like choose one part of this to happen, or to make it worse than it is. Like -1 to all saving throws, because like that's already kind of nothing. So I think it's fine. Like, I think it's a pretty good spell. It's like the flat -1 to hit is good to cast on people. The duration should probably change. Something that is scales less hard than 5 N rounds. My thought it goes to like N+1 or N+2 rounds. N+2 is like, it's 3 at level 1, and up to like 13 at level 11, which is still a very long time. I think N+1 is too short for the effect that it gives. Like, you're using an action to cast the spell, right? And using up some of your daily limited spells resource. So I think N+2 is fine. So that's good, I think. This spell is like less cool overall, but it is useful, especially if you have a cool saving throw thing to set up for. In fact, is it worth making the saving throw thing better than -2? Like -3 even? Crazy. I don't know. What are saving throws at these days around these parts? Like 13-ish at level 1 for most classes, or higher. Higher is worse for saving throws. You want to roll over them. Oh, I don't know if that's clear in the thing. A -2 to all saving throw rolls. Though higher is worse. You want to roll over or equal to your saving throw. So subtracting from a saving throw roll would be, yeah, curse. So that's good. Um, yeah, and then saving throw scale down to like 5, 6-ish at like max level. Um, hmm. I don't know. Maybe -2 is fine. It probably doesn't need to be -3. I'm kind of worried about it that being too annoying, though it probably doesn't matter that much. Um, okay. Anyway, next curse. Curse of Sickness. Duration 1+2 days. Oh, should we make Curse of Malai touch range to match Curse of Ill Fortune? I don't think they necessarily need to match. Like, I clearly made them all match the first time. Like, it's fine if they don't. I don't think this one needs to be touch. Like, it's not as cool or good, I think, as Curse of Ill Fortune. I don't know. Maybe it is better, but I think Curse of Ill Fortune is funnier. Um, I think it's fine to leave it with a range. I don't think it's good enough to require being touch. Curse of Sickness. A terrible disease is bestowed on the target for the next 1+2 days. That's maybe unnecessary to repeat the duration, but maybe it is, we'll see. During this time, the target only receives half of the normal healing they would receive from resting and rations. That's brutal. Additionally, each day, the target will temporarily lose 1 point from a random stat. That sucks. All points will be restored when the spell's duration ends, or if Cure Disease or Remove Curse is cast on the target. This curse does not work on devotees of the cleric's faith. Did I add that? Okay, I did add that too. I'm just going to move all of these to the end of the spell description for consistency. All points will be restored when the spell's duration ends, or if Cure Disease or Remove Curse is cast on the target. This curse does not work on devotees of the cleric's faith. Okay, I'm going to just move that sentence. The target may make a save versus law. On a success, the duration is halved, rounding down. Okay. And I'm gonna capitalize these, and I'm gonna say Cure Disease, Remove Curse, or similar. Just leave it open. Okay, this is actually a pretty cool spell, because the reduced healing is, like, annoying, but not fatal. From resting and rations, so it doesn't affect magical healing. Which is fine, I guess. Because magical healing nominally shouldn't be that common, though I guess it is pretty common if you have a cleric in your party. The scarier part, I think, is temporarily losing 1 point from a random stat per day. Because in this system, and in many systems, you die if a stat reaches 0. Just like straight up. So it's pretty unlikely that it will kill you. Like, with the current duration... So if this is uncured, like, you'll lose 3 points of stats, which obviously might affect your modifiers, which is good and fun, and probably won't kill you. At n equals 11, if you don't make the save, we're talking like 23 points of stat loss, and we have 5 stats. So even that is only like 4 points per stat on average. So it still probably won't kill you, even though it probably would affect all of your modifiers. Though that would only be by, the last day. So
That's actually fine, I think, the duration. Like, it's really only, like, annoying. And then if you let it go on, the stat loss is annoying, but not debilitating. Um, and then it just, like, ends normally, which is fine. Okay, so when do they lose 1 point from a random stat? I guess. At what time of day do you make that, like, determination?
I think I want to say I want it to happen when the spell is cast originally, like on them initially. So like starting when the spell is cast initially in every 24 hours from that point. So, you know, if the duration is 3 days, it would be when you cast the spell, then on the first day, then on the second day, then I guess on the third day, so it would be 4, but at that point the spell is cured, so it doesn't really matter, and that's fine. Okay. Clarify this, or split this up into 2 sentences. The duration is half rounding down. That's pretty generous, but that's fine, because like, yeah, saving at level 1 means it only lasts for 1 day. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool spell. I think players would, I mean, for players, like, I guess, like, it's primarily useful to cast on people that, like, you're expecting to meet briefly and then run away from, or, like, whatever. Like, you run away from them or they run away from you, and then you're just kind of, like, plaguing them with this for the next couple of days. Um, which should be reflected in, like, reduced healing for NPCs. Um, and obviously the stat loss. It's not, like, the most useful spell because, you know, it sort of relies on taking time to fester. Um, but it is kind of cool that it can be used that way. And you could also use it in, like, a narrative sense to, like, you know, make someone magically fall ill for a number of days, and then begin to waste away, which could be cool for, like, narrative reasons if you're trying to scare someone or whatever. Um, so yeah, I like this spell. Cool spell. Okay, let's keep moving. How many spells we got in this shared spell list? An absolute fuck ton, as to be expected. I think there's only like 16 or something, but it does take a long time to go through each one. Okay. Dispel Evil. Dispel Evil is a damage spell. That's exciting. You don't get a ton of those, especially on the cleric spell list. Duration is 10 rounds. Range is 10 plus 5n. Through the magnificence of the Holy of the Universe, drama. All summoned or magically infused creatures with hit points, comma, within the range of the spell, that could be reworded, must succeed on a saving throw versus law, or take ND3 damage. Ooh, that's a lot of damage at high levels. Even if the saving throw is made, any creature that would otherwise have been damaged will suffer a penalty of -n, to maximum -5, to hit the caster for the next 10 rounds. Creatures affected by this spell include, but are certainly not limited to, demons, familiars, and elementals. I don't think I wrote this spell. I think I. This doesn't sound like my writing. Um. Okay, so this is yeah. It's like a protection from good and evil type spell. Um. In fact, we have protection from evil coming up. Um. But we'll get there. Okay, I don't mind a little bit of drama. It's a little super dramatic. We can cut that down a little bit. Uh, all summoned or magically infused creatures. Is with hit points really a necessary clause here? No, it is not. I'm gonna change this to extra planar or magical. Though I guess what we're really trying to say here is chaotic. Um, though we kind of shy away from the use of alignments in this system. Like they are still in the system, um, but it's basically like magic is chaos. Uh, Clerics are lawful, and everyone else is neutral. I think it doesn't actually like it doesn't actually affect how you play the game, aside from like certain spells. Like I guess this one potentially affecting you in certain ways, and also because a lot of OSR modules like reference alignments. So I think it's kind of a good thing to keep in for compatibility. Um, so why don't we actually say extraplanar magical or otherwise chaotic? I think that's fine. Creatures within the range of the cell. I think I think we I think I typically word this differently. Where I say like chaotic creatures within the range of the spell take ND3 damage if they succeed a save. Comma, then something else. But I don't know. Let me read it again. All extra player range spell. I would say something like take ND3 damage unless a save versus law is made. If the save is made, the creature will. There you go. That's a lot less words. That's good. And we haven't addressed the scaling yet, but I will. Okay. So ND3 is a lot. Especially because this is a range spell, and it is all creatures in range. So that scales from 1d3 to 11d3, which is quite a lot. Let's check out what cause wounds is, shall we? Okay, yeah, cause wounds is ND4. And that is touch range. So like, you can only affect one creature with it. And I recently changed it from ND3, and I was like, is that too much? So I think ND3 is way too much for this spell. It's kind of super overtuned for chaos. Well, but I mean, to be fair, cause wounds you could use on anyone. Um, Dispel evil you could only use on chaotic creatures. So it's kind of fine, but it still should be less, I think. Um, I'm not afraid of using fake die, as you can see by the fact that I'm using an ND3 here. Players were smart enough to figure out how to roll D3s and D2s. Um, I think ND2 is fine. That's better. And they get a save to prevent it because, yeah, it's like 1.5 damage at level 1. And 1.5 times 11 damage at level 2. So like 16 or something. Um, at level 2. At n equals 11. Um, so yeah, that's probably fine. Um, 16 damage at level 11. I mean, that's high, but at level 11, it's probably fine. Or n equals 11, it's probably fine. Especially since you're probably fighting very powerful creatures, presumably. Um, and again, it's only chaotic creatures, and they have to succeed on a save. So, yeah, I think that's fine. It's kind of niche. If the save, though, maybe I'll reduce the range. Anyway, if the save is made, the creature will suffer a penalty of -n to a maximum -5 to hit the caster for the next 10 rounds. That's pretty strong. Creatures affected by this spell but are not limited to demons, familiars, and elementals. Okay. That's not a necessary line. And we have cut so much out of the spell. God bless. That's fine, I think. I did cut the range a lot. Um, from like now it's like 12 at level at n equals 1 and like 30 feet at n equals 11 or 10. Um, but that's not bad. I mean, it's still quite a lot. I'm thinking. I guess I'll that's very small changes. Make it 3n. That's a little less mean. Okay, let's check out Drain Essence. Okay, it is another damage spell, which is exciting. Touch range. Drain Essence allows the caster to drain ND3 hit points from a creature. The target may make a save versus law to have the number of hit points drained. Okay. The hit points are transferred to the caster through healing. That's crazy. This damage can be lethal, but is non-lethal unless otherwise stated. That is a weird disclaimer. So I feel like you're typically using this when you want to kill people. I feel like it would be much more of a niche case to not want to kill people. I'm just gonna change this to be optionally. Can be non-lethal. And place the target in a coma if they reach 0 hit points. I think that's a more logical sort of note. Okay. So let's talk about ND3. That's kind of a lot for healing, though it is save versus law for half. This was probably based on cause wounds, because you'll notice there's no save for cause wounds. So I guess you could argue, do we increase it to ND4? And that seems like a lot. So maybe no. Though I don't know, maybe. It's like it's cause wounds, but it heals you, and they can save to make it half as effective. I feel like I'd rather I feel like I'd rather leave it at ND3 because like hit points on the player are more valuable than hit points on a target. So like replacing damage and healing 1-to-1 is like not an equivalent trade. So like by trading uh like roughly half of the damage, since like you can save to half it, it's less than half effectively because obviously they're only going to make a save a percentage of the time. Um, is a trade that is dramatically in the benefit of the player. Um, so ND3 I think is good. Still quite a lot of healing. Ooh, we should factor in the this is a spell that should, because it involves healing, it should factor in the lay on hands changes. So I'm gonna write something roughly, and then I'm gonna refer to the rules. Um, any points healed are removed from the caster's available points of daily healing and cannot in any points of healing in excess to the caster's daily amount are not received. Okay, that's a lot more reasonable because we're tying it in with the well, that also makes it a lot worse. Okay, hold on. Let's go check out the lay on hands rules again. Okay, clerics have a pool of 5 plus 10 and minus 1 points that they can put towards healing, which are bonuses each day. To use these points to heal, clerics must cast lay on hands. May allocate any number of points in your pool to a target in touch range as magical healing. These points are then removed from the pool until the pool is replenished. Okay, yeah, making it rely on the lay on hands points is kind of cringe for the spell. Because lay on hands is like free, and this spell counts towards your daily spell limit. It does also deal damage, so it basically is like saving you an action. But like you may as well just cast cause wounds, which is more damage if you're trying to do damage. Hmm. Fascinating. That makes this a little tricky. So if we make it equal to cause wounds, then the trade-off of casting this, well, then it's like a, it's cause wounds that it can heal you mid-fight, which will save you a cure, which will save you an action that you would spend on lay on hands otherwise. So that's good. Um, but the consequence is that they get a save to reduce the effectiveness by half. Honestly, that might be worth it though still. Because like in combat, if you're like, I really need to
I don't know. Maybe it would be better to, because like the options are choosing in a situation where you'd want to cast a spell. Like, is it better to just cast cause wounds or to cast cure wounds, lay on hands, and heal yourself? The answer probably most of the time is that it's better to cast either cause wounds or lay on hands, because lay on hands you can choose the number of healing points. Um, it's non-variable, and cause wounds the damage is non-variable. I mean, it's ND4, but it's not variable in the sense that there's no save. So that's actually kind of interesting. Maybe what I want to do is make this spell stronger. Okay, ND5 is kind of a gross thing. Though, D10s exist, so it's not that bad. Okay, yeah, because making it rely on the lay on hands points instead of just being like free healing made the spell dramatically worse, and that's good because I think we want to try and rein in the healing a little bit and make it like all use the lay on hands pool. So, and I've already done that with like the healing subclass is, and I've got a lot to say about those. Um, and I'm not sure that these are final yet, but I did change them to use lay on hands. Um, anyway, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know this spell was doing healing. I forgot about it. So that's a good change. Okay, I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna take a quick break, but we'll come back. And this next one looks really short. So, foul food and drink, instant touch, contaminate all food and water with a radius of 5n. So this should be worded a little bit differently, because the range should be 5n feet. And contaminate all food and water within range. This spell foils holy water. At one point, I was actually worried about this spell being too powerful. Like, the fact that you could just, like, sneak into, like, an enemy storeroom and store all their food could be, like, absolutely crippling in, like, some settings or situations. Um, I guess you could just, like, go in there and smash up their boxes, but, um, yeah. So I actually think the power level of this spell is fine, because it's, like, absurdly powerful in some situations. Like, you can really fuck some people over. Um, even with like the really short range, like destroying all food within a 5 feet radius, like if you like are standing in a storehouse, like again can really fuck people. Um, I'm imagining a 5 foot radius has. I mean, it's a fair amount of space. Um, so I think that's fine. I think players would pick it up if they wanted to do that specifically, or if they thought it made sense for their character, I suppose. Um, and so that's fine. It's very straightforward, but that's fine. Okay. Um, I'm gonna take a quick break, but I'll be back in like 2 minutes. So I'm gonna go back to this loading screen, and I will be right back. Oh.
Oh no, I can hear myself. Stop that. Stop that. Okay. Stop that. Okay. Stop that. Okay. Stop that. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. I know all of my viewers were waiting for me eagerly, and I appreciate that. Whew. I have talked an absurd amount this stream, I feel like. Um, which is fine. It's exciting. I think that I will keep going for a little bit longer. I think I'm going to try and hit the 2-hour mark because that seems like a solid timestamp to hit. um, he's streaming just for the content. Um, yeah. Okay. So I'll keep going for like another half hour ish. And we'll see how we're going. We have made a little bit of progress. How many spells have we gotten through? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 spells? That ain't bad. How many spells do we have left? Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-ish. Okay. That's fine. We can get through a couple more. No problem. The good thing about working on an RPG, truly endless potential content. Just hours and hours of me like scrolling through the list of the same 23 spells and editing them, making them slightly less awful. So anyway. That's good, I guess. Okay, funeral rites. This looks kind of complicated. Just looking at the head of this, we'll see what it's about. Okay, sure. Duration, 10 times turn spent days. Oh, like, turn spent doing the rites, presumably. The cleric, let's be consistent with our capitalization, touches a corpse and prevents it from both decaying and being raised as undead for the duration. Okay. The cleric can spend up to n turns casting the spell, affecting the duration of the effect. Weird sentence. The caster can target an additional corpse per n. Each additional target is affected for the same amount of time and adds half of the base casting time to the casting time. Okay, I feel like the wording for this could be dramatically improved. And also, how do we feel about how it works, like, in general? The cleric can spend up to n turns casting the spell. So at level 1, you can spend up to 1 turn, and it will affect 1 target for 10 days. Reasonable. At n is 11, you can spend 11 turns casting the spell, which is like almost 2 hours. You can affect 11 corpses with this, and it will last 110 days. That's quite a lot. And adds half of the base. Each additional target adds half of the base casting time to the casting time. So I think what that means is that if it were like 2 hours, if you were affecting like 11 targets, it would add like an hour 10 times. This seems reasonable, but also like kind of a bitch to calculate. And we want to avoid making our players do calculations generally. So I'm thinking that might change. Okay. The cleric can spend up to n turns casting the spell, affecting the duration of the spell. I think that's good. I think making this like a spell that takes a really long time to cast is fine. And in fact, we should say that it is channeled, which I think is this column. It is. That's underused. Channeled basically just means that the caster like just has to cast. Like they just have to focus only on the spell. They can't move or do anything else. They have to like just be casting the spell for the duration that the spell is ongoing. Though I guess, you don't want the caster to be channeling. I don't want people to think that the caster should be channeling for like the full
10 times turn spent days. So it's kind of just during the casting time, which isn't really something that's represented anywhere on this table because it's not really a thing that most of our spells have. In fact, this is one of the only spells that has a meaningful casting time. So, okay, that's fine. The cleric can spend up to end turns casting this spell. I'm going to say touches up to end corpses. Corpses. And prevents them. The cleric can spend up to end turns casting this spell. Affecting the duration. That I don't think needs to be said. For each corpse affected beyond the first, the time to cast increases by 1 turn. That is a lot more straightforward. It doesn't really require any math. I mean, it does a little bit, but like, it's a lot better. Okay, yeah, 10 times turn spent days is kind of a lot, as we've said. Oh, and it's kind of ambiguous, because it's like when you're affecting multiple corpses, like that shouldn't count towards the length of the effect, like the duration of the effect. Turn with no effect on the duration of the spell. Okay, that's clear. Five times turn spent days is still like pretty reasonable. Like 5 days at level 1 is like pretty long, like a full week almost. In a level 11, 55 days is still quite a lot, but is probably fine. If you're that high of a level, being able to cast that on 11 corpses and preventing them from being raised for 55 days is fine. Kind of strong, but fine. I mean, necromancers have a spell, I think, which makes it so that this sort of stuff is dispelled. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Necromancer spell is super fucking cool, by the way. I'm not gonna go through it right now, but it fucking rocks. I guess it doesn't really matter which one it is, but I'm pretty sure like one of them does this. Scrolling. Oh, another thing that's cool about the necromancers. I shouldn't go into necromancers, it'll take too long. Necromancers are cool. They have their own spell list. Their gimmick is that they don't have spell limits like other casters do. Instead, they are component-based casters. But like for real, you have to use the components, not like in other systems where you can ignore the components. Like the whole point of them is that they're component-based casters, and they don't have a spell list because of like a spell limit because of that. They're only limited by their components. So that's like really cool. I wish more people played necromancers in my system. Because we went through the effort of making this whole spell list. Yeah. Anyway, point is, pretty sure that they have a spell for that, but I guess most necromancers probably wouldn't have access to it, so whatever. Where was I? So 55 days is kind of a lot, is the point. Three? I don't know. I don't want to make this spell, like, pointless. We could put in a maximum number of days, too, for the duration. But then it's kind of like, okay, well, I'll never cast it beyond, like... Well, no, the number of corpses still scales. Okay, yeah, good point. We can just say, like, n max 6 turns. And then it caps at 30 days at spell level 6. But you're still scaling your number of corpses to level 11, which is fine. Spell. No effect. Which can go past the maximum number of turns? Which can it go past? No. This can increase the casting time beyond its normal maximum, but will not affect the duration of the spell. I always use the wrong effect, so I am a fool. Okay, that's good. I feel like we cleaned that up quite a bit. And it's a little more reasonable now. That's good. Okay, let's check out Heroism. Temporary hit point spell. M+1 rounds, pretty short. This spell grants the target a n+1 temporary hit points. Okay. n+1 temporary hit points. And bonus to saving throws for the duration of the spell. When the spell ends, temporary hit points dissipate. n+1 rounds, n+1 temporary hit points, and n+1 bonus saving throws. A lot of n+1 in this spell. Temporary hit points is fine. Because the maximum that's 12 temporary hit points, which is not an insane amount, but it is useful for sure. That's pretty good, definitely. A plus 12 bonus to saving throws is kind of crazy. I guess I should clarify that is saving throw rolls. I think I should just make this like a flat bonus, maybe. And the duration, I think it's okay for the duration to scale. I don't think it matters that much if the duration is like scaling versus if it were like fixed at like 5, for instance, would be the alternative. Because then you would I don't know. It doesn't really matter because like presumably you're losing the temporary hit points anyways. Um, and if the duration expires without you losing the temporary hit points, then it doesn't matter that you had them in the first place. So, um, it just gives you more time to make use of the spell. But the higher level the spell is, like the more time you need to make use of it. So it's fine that that scales like that. Yeah, that's fine. And like two temporary hit points at level 1, fuck's sake. Two temporary hit points at level 1 does not feel like anything if you don't know a lot about OSR health, but if you assume that the average player health is like 4 at level 1, then I mean 2 temporary hit points is kind of a lot. So that's fine. Yeah, I think this is for the most part a very fine spell. And touch range is fine. You want to use it to buff people. Um, and you should need to set up for that, so that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Okay, what's magic as magic vestment? This seems like a mage armor type spell, just based on the name. Okay, the duration uses decimals, which is never really a good sign. 0.5 plus 0.5 end turns, but we'll see. This spell shields up to N targets with the power of faith, granting them a base armor class of 16. This spell does not function if the target is wearing any armor. I'm covering that up with that, whatever the hell that is, or using any sort of protective enchantments or items. Okay, so you're using this on unarmored targets to increase their AC to 16. So I guess in most systems that is barbarians. In this system that is also probably barbarians. And also maybe like other wizards, like muscle wizards and whatever. Uh, I haven't talked about the muscle wizard class. That's one of the best classes in the game. Don't worry about it. AC 16 is like high, and like you still get your dex bonus and whatever other bonus. Like it's kind of crazy on barbarians because barbarians get like a bunch of bonuses to AC because they're not supposed to wear armor, right? Um, so I guess it's just. Hold on, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna check out barbarian real quick. Right, they have a natural AC of 14. So that's and they can get some bonus AC from this. No, they mostly get 2 hit and saves from this actually. They don't actually really get AC from that. Okay, so that's not that crazy actually. Okay. Okay, good to know, good to know. Um, so I guess what my points of concern here are up to end targets and the duration. 0.5 plus 0.5 end turns is just seems like a weird duration. Like what's the point in making it that long? Like measuring it in turns? I guess if you're making like unarmored people go through like multiple battles that you're expecting, but you know, I don't know. At n equals 11, that's like 12 turns, which is again 2 hours. So I guess that's fine. I just don't like the decimals because that sucks. But whatever. I could say I could do it in like minutes maybe. I think I'd prefer to do it in minutes. Oh, but then converting it to turns is weird. And like turns is what people are going to actually be using as a unit of measurement. Ah, that's fine. I don't love it. And then up to n targets. I feel like that is a lot of targets potentially. I don't really feel like the targets needs to scale. Cause like, unless you're casting this on like a horde of civilians, right? Which like is valid, or like I guess like a horde of like townsmen who are like fighting with you or something. But like, oh, well, that's kind of cool actually. I don't know. I feel like actually, why not just make it like all targets and I feel like making it everyone in touch range is kind of cool actually, because I mean, you could use it on your whole squad with this, which is like fine. That's fine, and like I think it's cooler to add the use in for like like using it on like militia or like townsfolk is really who this would be for. And giving them like holy protection, and so like allowing for that moment where it's like uh crowd around me, and then you get like 5 people with this. That would be pretty cool. So I actually like that, and it doesn't. That's kind of like a very specific vision, but like it allows for stuff like that, and for like granting is to like 2 party members that would benefit from it, um, which I think is fine. Um, yeah, without affecting it most of the time, because I think most of the time when you get the spell, like you're probably gonna only have like 1 party member to cast it on. And if 2 party members benefit from it at the same time, that's fine. That was gonna happen anyway with the original spell scaling, where you were gonna scale up to n, like past n equals 1. So, because it's not gonna be more than like 2 in a party. Um, so that's actually a buff for it at level 1, but that's fine. I think like this is a totally adequate spell. We'll see if that is somehow game breaking. If it's a cleric must have, then I will nerf it. Oh god. Oh, I'm looking at pro evil and pro good. Those are long ass looking spells. Stay strong. Um, and also pro evil and pro good. I know we're going to talk about chaotic and lawful creatures, which brings up the question of should we even have these spells? Like, do we want to go in on chaotic and lawful creatures? The answer I think is yeah, probably. But alignments always make me feel kind of. Um. Okay, let's read pro evil, and like, it's actually kind of. I'll have to reread this. I know that, or I will reread these spells. I mean, it is kind of weird that these aren't combined into pro evil and pro good. I know 5th edition combines them in protection from good and evil. And like I've done that with a lot of spells that I think are bad. Like I combine their effects into one spell. Like for example, knock. Knock and arcane lock is combined into a single spell called knock and lock. um, so like I do that for spells I think are underwhelming. So I wonder if Yeah, I wonder why I didn't combine these two. And let's read it and find out. Okay, so the duration is n+1 rounds. The range is 5n. That seems fairly normal. Duration kind of short at level 1. The target of this spell becomes more resistant to chaotic creatures and effects. Okay. Any chaotic creature suffers a -n penalty to hit the target in combat. Okay. And the subject gets a +n bonus to save against an effect caused by a chaotic creature. Okay. This includes, like, casters, because casters are chaotic. Protection from evil also allows a saving throw against magic user spells and effects against the subject which normally do not grant saves. Spells which deliver damage do half what they would have on a successful save. Other spells fail entirely on a successful save, and this save must also be made for beneficial MU spells. Okay, that's funny. Chaotic creatures include undead creatures, monsters, and certain magical ability attack, any creature that is able to use magic, excluding clerics, beings carrying magical items. Damn, that's a lot. Potions and scrolls do not count, but non-clerical wands and staves do. This is very specific. And any sort of supernatural creature incapable of acting beneficently. I super didn't write this. Beings and manifestations that have no real world essence without the force of chaos or magic, but not angels or other powers of law, are not able to physically touch those protected by the spell at all. Okay. There is a lot of, like, info in here, but I feel like we should probably try and cut it down. This spell kind of does a lot. It's kind of good. So chaotic get a -n to hit, get a +n to save. That scale's really high, so that's probably going to need to change. And it gives you saves against things that don't normally have saves, which is really good. Chaotic creatures include I want to go with what I've said before. Like, extraplanar or magical. I think that covers, like, most things. Okay, excluding clerics is kind of a given. I guess I'll put it in here too. Excluding clerics. Or maybe something like chaotically magical. I don't know. I'll just put excluding clerics for now. Creatures. Gonna put this in parentheses to be consistent. This, I feel like, is sort of unnecessary and doesn't really add anything to the spell. And also any sort of supernatural creature incapable of acting beneficently. So that's getting out of here. And then the thing about, like, beings and manifestations that have no real world essence without the forces of chaos or magic cannot touch those protected by this spell. I feel like that covers most or a lot of extraplanar or magical entities, because that covers like anything like summoned
any like ghosts, like magical, like the magic swords and shit, like the spell. So I don't know if I like that. I'm just gonna take this out, I think. Excluding clerics or holy creatures such as angels. Excluding clerics or holy creatures. And I will add that into whatever I was looking at before to spell evil. Excluding clerics or holy creatures. Does that still make sense? All extra are magical, excluding clerics or holy creatures, or otherwise chaotic creatures. Eh. I'm just gonna move this. Excluding clerics or holy creatures. There you go. Against non-clerical spells and effects. Junkrat saves. Official spells. Okay. I think that's fine. It's better anyway. Oh wait, no, I'm not done with this. I was thinking maybe like flat duration. That's a lot more stable. And then the scaling is just in the -n. That's fine. This effect, I want to say something about how it stops working if you attack the creature it's affecting. Because you shouldn't be able to like use the spell to like mitigate consequences from all or creature while you attack it. If the target of any creature the target of this spell attacks during the spell's duration is not affected by the spell. Okay. We can keep like the really wacky penalties and bonuses, but like yeah, we've limited the duration, and if we attack it, then the effect goes away, which is fair. Okay, let's just get through protection from good, and then I think I will call it there. Okay. Pro good. N+1 rounds, it seems like we all changed that. I'm probably just going to change it to match pro evil, but let's read through it. The
target of this spell becomes more resistant to lawful creatures and effects. Any lawful creatures, yeah, it's the same, suffers a minus and penalty to hit the target in melee combat. That's a weird specification over chaotic, which just says combat. So I'm gonna remove that. And the subject gets a plus M bonus to save against any attack or effect caused by a lawful creature. Same. Protection from good also allows a saving throw against clerical spells and effects. Yeah, because this is just mirroring this because this says non-clerical against the subject which normally do not grant saves. Spells which deliver damage do half on a successful save. Other spells fail entirely on a successful save. And then there's the bit on lawful creatures. Lawful creatures include monsters with any sort of lawful ability or attack. Any creature that is able to use clerical spells, beings carry lawful items, potions, clerical ones as do, and any sort of supernatural capable creature will act cruelly.
Ooh, I am really mumbling all that. Sorry. Beings and but it is kind of the same as Pro Evil, and I'm thinking about how to reword it. I want to be explicit about casters being included. Okay. So we're just going to say lawful and creatures extraplanar or magical creatures which serve a deity, right? That's basically what makes things lawful, or holy. Or deity, or are otherwise holy, or clerics. And then the items thing is covered because it also gives the save versus clerical specs versus clerical effects and spells. So if someone is attacking you with a clerical artifact, then pro good will give you a save against it at the very least, which is good. I guess I could add or wielding clerical items. Holy weapons. Using magic or those using magical weapons. Ooh, like all magical weapons is kind of a lot actually, so I'm not gonna say that there. That's kind of contentious. We could revisit that potentially, but I think it's fine. And I'm getting kind of tired, so I'm gonna stop here. Oh, and I'm gonna change it to 3 rounds. Okay. And look at that. We did like half of the shared spell list in only like 2 short hours. That's pretty good. And to be fair, I spent like at least 30 to 40 minutes explaining the system, so introducing myself. Okay. Cool. Let's transition to this terrifyingly full screen image of me. and let's do an outro. Thank you, thank you, thank you for watching the stream. If you did in fact watch it, I appreciate it a lot, and I hope it was interesting. If you have any questions about what I am doing here or what is going on, there is a ton that I didn't explain, so please ask me in the stream or another stream. I was terribly awkward at the beginning, I think. Sorry about that. This was my first stream on my own, so hopefully I will get better as we go. Overall though, it was fun, and I got to work on my system, so that's a bonus. Yeah, that's about it. So, thanks for watching. Oh, I should mention what I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to keep streaming until it's not fun for me anymore. This is still fun, so that's good. I'm gonna try to keep streaming me working on this because I think it's a pretty interesting thing to stream. And if there are actually people who watch it and are interested in it, it would be cool to like hear their feedback while I'm doing it, because I think like crowdsourcing and bouncing ideas off of people helps people make like the best possible games. Personally, I think that. Yeah, so it'd be cool if there were people with like ideas or like paying attention in the chat. Otherwise, I'd just be working on it by myself, which is what I would do anyway, so it's not really any different. Other than I'm talking a lot and killing my voice. Anyway, I also like playing video games a lot, so I'll probably also stream myself playing video games. It seems likely I will appear on the channel of Wisteria VT in the future. And when I do that, I will probably co-stream to this channel. So that's something. And beyond that, I will probably stream video games on my own occasionally, but I do want to be consistent about the working on my tabletop thing, because again, I think that's cool. Nothing about this stream setup is final. Obviously, the layout and everything is all sort of very set up on the fly, so I'm gonna keep playing with that, and hopefully we'll get more followers, so we'll be able to see the cool widgets in action. Yeah, okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm on Twitter, same name. I will probably tweet my streams in the future. And yeah, that's all. Have a great night, everyone. Peace out.